classic shell game, isn't it? You walk into a negotiation room, the company announces record profits, billions on the balance sheet, and you think, okay, finally, this is the year we get ahead. But then the offer slides across the table, a 4% raise. Sounds decent, right? Until you flip to page 10 and see the healthcare premiums. They've gone up just enough to eat that entire raise. You're not walking out with more money. You're walking out with the same paycheck and a more expensive doctor. It's a magic trick where the money vanishes before it even hits your bank account.
It is a magic trick, Chloe, but in labor economics, we have a very boring name for it: cost neutral bargaining. And for a company with 30,000 employees, frankly, it's a trap. It's a way of framing the conversation so that the workers are effectively negotiating against themselves rather than against the company's profit margin.
So today we are tearing that frame apart. We're answering a listener who is dealing with exactly this scenario: a massive workforce, 30,000 strong, facing family healthcare premiums of $800 a month, and a union leadership that seems stuck in this cost neutral mindset. We're looking at how to break that cycle, what progressive bargaining actually looks like, and how workers in industries like airlines, where you can't just walk off the job tomorrow, build the kind of leverage that scares management into paying up.
And the stakes here are huge because if you accept the cost neutral premise, you aren't just losing money, you're likely selling off your work rules, your safety protections, and your quality of life just to keep your healthcare affordable. You're cannibalizing the contract to feed the premiums.
Let's start with that term: cost neutral. It sounds responsible, it sounds balanced. Why is it poison for a union?
Because it accepts a false premise. Cost neutral bargaining basically says, here is a fixed pie of money for labor costs. We, the company, will not spend a penny more than this pie. So if you want a wage increase, you have to find the money inside that existing pie. You want a dollar raise? Okay, we need to cut a dollar from your healthcare benefits, or we need to cut a dollar from your staffing levels. It turns the negotiation into a zero-sum game where the employee is paying for their own raise. Exactly. That's where progressive bargaining comes in. Progressive bargaining rejects the fixed pie. It says, we generated these record profits. We aren't here to shuffle costs around. We are here to expand the labor share of the revenue. A progressive negotiation doesn't ask, where do we cut to pay for this? It asks, what is the fair return on our labor given the company's success? It forces the company to open the corporate wallet, not just the payroll wallet.
Let's talk about the healthcare specifically, because this $800 number is sticking in my craw. The listener mentions a family of four, paying $800 a month. Now, for a small business, maybe that's normal. But for a group of 30,000 employees, that feels incredibly high.
It is high. When you have 30,000 lives, you are what actuaries call a massive risk pool. You have tremendous buying power. An insurance carrier should be bending over backward to give you a lower rate because you're bringing them so much volume. If you're paying $800 a month, which is nearly $10,000 a year out of pocket just for premiums, plus the employer's share, it suggests the company is just passing the raw cost increases from the insurer directly to the workers. They aren't managing the cost, they're just shifting the burden. So how does a progressive union handle that differently? Do they just demand the company pay 100%? They can, but the smartest progressive unions go further. Look at Unite Here, the hospitality union, or 1199 SEIU in healthcare. They didn't just bargain for who pays the bill, they changed the structure of the bill. They created their own health funds. Because they represent so many workers, they went to the hospitals and doctors directly and said, we will send you 30,000 patients, but you will give us a rate that doesn't bankrupt us. They implemented value-based care, focusing on keeping members healthy so costs go down naturally rather than just letting insurance companies jack up premiums every year. That's progressive bargaining, structural change that solves the problem rather than just arguing over who writes the check for an inflated price.
That's fascinating. So instead of playing the company's game of, oh, insurance went up 10%, sorry, the union takes the wheel?
Right, and if your union leadership is just shrugging and saying, well, costs are up, we have to stay cost neutral, They are failing to use the leverage of those 30,000 members. They're acting like passengers when they should be driving the bus.
Let's pivot to the industry aspect here. The listener mentions airlines. Now, airlines are a unique beast because of the Railway Labor Act. You can't just strike because you're mad. There's a process. It's long, it's tedious, and it favors the company.
It's designed to prevent strikes, yes. Under the Railway Labor Act, or RLA, contracts don't expire, they become amendable. If you can't agree, you go to mediation. Then the government has to release you into a cooling off period before you can strike. It can take years. Companies love this. They know they can drag it out, keep the money in the bank, and wear you down.
So, if you're a flight attendant or a pilot and you can't walk out tomorrow, how do you force the company to listen? The listener asks about getting attention through solidarity.
This is where creativity meets militancy. You have to create economic pain or public pressure without violating the law. One of the most famous examples is from the Association of Flight Attendants, the AFA-CWA. They developed a strategy called CHAOS.
Chaos.
It stands for Create Havoc Around Our System. Instead of a traditional all-out strike where everyone walks off and the airline hires scabs, or the president orders you back to work, chaos involves intermittent surprise strikes. Maybe 3 flights in Chicago don't take off today. Maybe a crew in Dallas walks off 10 minutes before boarding. The airline can't predict it, so they can't schedule around it. It creates massive uncertainty for management and passengers, which hits the stock price hard.
That's brilliant. It turns the unpredictability into the weapon. But what if you aren't at the strike phase yet? What if you're still in that RLA purgatory?
Then you use the work to rule tactic. This is a classic solidarity move. In many industries, especially airlines, the system only runs smoothly because workers do extra favors. They show up 5 minutes early. They answer their phone on a day off. They hustle to close a door a bit faster. Work to rule means you follow the contract and the safety manual to the absolute letter.
Malicious compliance.
Exactly. If the safety manual says, check every life vest visually, you don't just glance at the row. You pick up every vest. You inspect it. You put it back. Is it slow? Yes. Is it illegal? Absolutely not. You are prioritizing safety, just like the company handbook says. If 30,000 people do that simultaneously, the operation grinds to a halt. Management notices immediately.
And that requires massive solidarity. You can't have half the group doing it and half the group trying to be teacher's pet.
And that brings us back to the cost-neutral trap regarding work rules. The listener mentioned that cost-neutral bargaining diminishes protections. This is a critical point. When you are desperate for a raise and the company says the pot is empty, they will offer to buy your work rules. They'll say, we'll give you that 5% raise, but we need to reduce the staffing ratio from 1 to 5 to 1 to 7, or we need to cut the layover rest time.
You're selling your quality of life to pay for your inflation adjustment.
And once those protections are gone, Chloe, they are almost impossible to buy back. You can always negotiate for more money next time, but trying to get a company to agree to more staffing or more restrictions on their scheduling, that is an uphill battle. That's why a progressive union leader will often say, the work rules are the shield. We do not sell the shield to buy bread.
It sounds like the listener is frustrated with their union leadership too. They mention the leader does not fight for members and uses cost-neutral bargaining as a crutch. How do members wake up a sleepy union?
It happens from the bottom up. You can't wait for the leader to find their courage. In the Teamsters, for example, the recent aggressive posture didn't just happen. It came from a reform movement within the membership, groups like Teamsters for a Democratic Union, who organized educated members on why concessions were bad and eventually elected leadership that reflected that fight. If your leader is saying, we have to be cost neutral, you need to flood the union meetings. You need to present the data on the company's record profits. You need to demand open bargaining where members can see exactly what the company is offering.
Transparency seems key there. If the members don't know the company is making record profits while pleading poverty, they might accept the bad deal.
Right. Management relies on the poverty plea, but public companies have to file financial reports. A smart union committee takes those 10K filings, highlights the billions in stock buybacks, highlights the CEO's 40% pay bump and puts it on a flyer right next to the proposed healthcare hike. That visual destroys the "we can't afford it" narrative instantly.
So, to wrap this up for our listener, you are part of a 30,000 person group. You have massive potential power. The cost neutral argument is a choice, not a lot of physics. The company chooses to frame it that way, and your union is choosing to accept it. The path forward is what they identified: solidarity. But not just "we are all friends" solidarity, strategic solidarity. It means wearing the union pin every single person every single day so management sees a sea of red or whatever color and knows they are outnumbered. It means informational picketing at airports or headquarters, handing out leaflets to the public that say, "We keep you safe, but they won't keep us healthy." Public shame is a powerful motivator for companies that rely on brand image. And ultimately, refusing to ratify a bad contract. The power to say no is the ultimate leverage.
It is. A rejected contract is a crisis for management. It tells them they miscalculated. If you want progressive gains, if you want that healthcare premium down to $200 instead of $800, you have to be willing to disrupt the status quo. You have to be willing to be a little bit unreasonable, because the company's profit margins are certainly unreasonable.
Don't sell the shield to buy the bread. I love that. To our listener, it sounds like you know what needs to be done. It's just a matter of getting 29,999 other people to realize it too.
And that starts with one conversation in the break room. Did you see their profits? Why are we paying for our own raise?
Thanks for breaking this down, Alex. It's a tough fight, but clarity is the first weapon. If you found this helpful, send it to a coworker. Start that conversation today.